Hi guys, Rachet here from Homeowner DIY. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to replace an ABS floor flange on an upper floor. Now I installed this toilet about 2 weeks ago, and then I got a call back that there was a leak. So I will show you what I found, why this happened, and then how I'm going to go about fixing it. So the key thing in this video is I am not going to cut any drywall. There's a closet underneath this toilet with a textured ceiling, so I'm going to show you the way to replace this without being invasive. Alright, so this is our toilet flange. So the first thing you notice is how low the flange is opposed to the floor. But what I realized later on, that this flange has no screws, so there should be a screw hole there, one there, one there, one there. Well, when I pulled the toilet, I realized there was one screw right there, that it was a 1-inch screw. So besides having no screws holding the flange down to the floor, the one screw that was holding the flange down wasn't brass, and it was too short anyway. So what wound up happening is, when I tightened the bolt with the bolt with the 2 T-bolts, that started to pull this up. And because this is a swivel type of flange, which has a hole or a collar here so the thing can move, water was getting in between and going down the side. So that is why this install wound up leaking. So you can see the little bit of play with this swivel type of flange. I'm not a fan of these, and in this case, that is why I ran into a problem. But the plan here is, I'm going to cut the pipe down the hole. We're going to pull the flange out. I'm going to build up underneath with some plywood for the new flange, screw the new flange in, glue everything back together, and that should fix this problem. So what we'll do right now really quickly is we'll go look downstairs to see the access from the bottom that we do not have. Okay, so our 90 is there. You see the clean out? So this comes over and then goes down. So I'm going to avoid cutting a hole in the ceiling to fix this issue, and that will make this repair much faster and cheaper. So what we'll do now is material and tools. Alright, this is our materials list. So I have a solid flange. This one doesn't swivel. Oh, this doesn't have a collar right here, so this is one big unit. I got brass screws. That'll be for the flange to the floor. I got a wax seal. I got 1.5-inch deck screws and 2-inch deck screws. I don't know what I need yet. I don't know how much I need to raise the flange by. ABS glue, 3-inch coupling, a little bit of 3-inch ABS pipe, T-bolts. I have a piece of 3/8 plywood and then a piece of 1/2-inch plywood. Guys, this is what I believe I need for material for this job. So what we'll do now is the tools list. Alright, this is our tools list. So I have my cordless kit, cordless drill and impact. I have an internal pipe cutter. Guys, without this internal pipe cutter, I don't see how else you do this job. I've got a hacksaw, I got gloves, and then I have hand tools. So measuring tape, knife, screwdrivers, anything else I might need. Guys, this is what I believe I need for tools for this job. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a rag and then we're going to stuff it inside the hole. That way, if the internal pipe cutter loosens off, we don't lose it, because I have no way to get another one right now. Okay, so with our internal pipe cutter, I'm just going to go down and cut around the pipe. There was a second screw. Okay, so that is another 1-inch screw. It's not brass and it's too short. But with that out, so this is our flange. And it swivels, but with that out of the way, I'll clean this out. Okay, so this is our hole. So the pipe goes back in the 90s this way. So this is the subfloor that the original flange was sitting on. So the new floor is about 1.1 inches higher. So what I need to do is I need to build this up before we put our new flange onto it. Okay, so in this case, I'm thinking a piece of 1/2-inch plywood and then 3/8 on top of it, and that should get the new flange pretty close to being flush to the floor here. But what I will do is I'm going to take a flathead and a hammer and then just break away this mortar and clean this up a little bit so I have a nice smooth surface to attach to. And one thing, when you're tapping, tap lightly. You don't have to go very hard to break the mortar off. And try to get a nice clean edge all the way around. Like this needs to come out more, but you just want a clean edge so the flange will slide through. It's relatively easy. Okay, so this is our new flange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece that'll slide here, a piece that'll go here, a piece for this here, and then a piece here. I'm going to screw that down, and that's going to prop our flange up. Once I screw those pieces down, I will set the flange, and then the brass screws will go through the upper plywood, and then that'll connect the flange to the floor so it's actually properly secured. So to cut my plywood, I'm just going to use the hacksaw because these pieces are so small. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue our coupling onto the piece of pipe. Make sure that there's no burrs or anything sticking out because the internal pipe cutter cuts from inside out. Alright, so our coupling is in. It's nice and low. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build up. I'm going to put the pieces down for the flange. Alright guys, so a key thing here is the coupling all the way around. You need to be able to see it all the way around, because if you don't, when you put the flange down, it's going to hit the very edge. But this, it clears everywhere, so it should be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 screws, 2.5-inch screws into each, and then when I put this on top of here, I'll use the brass screws to screw the two together. Alright, with the plywood in, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to screw it in. Guys, when you screw in your plywood, make sure that you're holding it in hand. Push it down because the screw will want to push the 2 pieces away from each other. Alright, so the flange is going to sit roughly flush. The flange is 2 3/8 to the very bottom, from the top to the very bottom. Okay, so because the hubs are 1.5 each. I need a 3 3/4 piece, which I have here, and that is going to be glued in to the flange. Okay, so I'm going to measure out the wall to the center of the pipe. It's about 12 3/8, and then 12 3/8. Alright, so we have our mark here. That is the center, which is roughly here. You can also give it a bit more of a spin. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it in, and then I'm going to spin it into position. Alright, with the flange now set in place, we'll take our brass screws and then we'll screw the flange down. Okay, this screw hole here, the screw holding down the piece of plywood, it hit it right on. But with that done, now what we can do is get the T-bolts on. Alright, sorry for before I put the T-bolts on. This has a knockout cover. This is for testing, so we have to break it out. So all you need to do is just work a flat head in a few different places. And then if anything's sticking out, just tap it back in as well. Alright, so this is our flange. I've got all the screws in except this one. You can see the screw head. What's the chance of being it right underneath? But now that this has 5 brass screws in, this is now structurally strong. So I'm going to sweep up. We'll put the T-bolts in, and then I'll set the toilet like any other install. Alright, so now it's just a standard install. We'll get our wax seal on. Guys, this is just a regular wax seal. It's not a max wax. Our T-bolts. And now we'll put our toilet down. Okay, so our T-bolts, make sure they're in the middle. Make sure that they are pointed straight up. And then when you set your toilet, as I said before, try to set it down as straight as you can. And then guys, with our covers, so the top here is beveled and here it's inset on the inside. Normally they say this side up, but the beveled side goes to the top. That's what's going to hook on the caps. So guys, with the T-bolts, like I said before, make sure that you go back and forth. And now your toilet line, we'll hook that on. And we'll turn water on. Alright, so our toilet is nice and solid. Everything looks good. Alright, so this is our flange. Like, you can see how warped this thing is. But you can see right here how it's been lifted. I believe this is where it was leaking from. But like I said, this is it's a type of swivel that this flange can swivel around. But I believe the reason that this was leaking, it leaked through here. So it wasn't my wax seal, it was the flange because it was never screwed down. But guys, with that in mind, what we'll do now is an overview of this job. Alright guys, so that concludes this project. So to be able to do this job, you need to have an internal pipe cutter. I don't see how else you'd be able to do this without an internal pipe cutter. If the basement or if the closet was not finished, so there was no drywall, this would change everything. But I'm happy with the way this went. I fixed the elevation for the flange. I put in plywood. I screwed everything in. It's nice and solid. It's a solid flange now, so it means that there's only one piece to it. So I don't anticipate any problems in the future. Now, my one takeaway on this job, and this is what I'm going to start doing, is when I'm going to replace a toilet, I'm going to check the flange to make sure that it is solid. With this one, there was mortar, because they put a new subfloor and then they put tile on top of it. But I mean, in the case of me installing the toilet, now that I've touched this, unfortunately, at least here where I am locally, once you touch something, you own it, so you're on the hook to fix it. But everything went well. I didn't run into any issues, and I am confident that I will not be getting another callback from this homeowner. The time on this job. The time was about 2 hours. Everything was relatively straightforward. I didn't run into any problems. Everything is solid now, so I'm very happy with this. The cost of this job. The fittings, glue, plywood, screws, and stuff to remount the toilet. The material was about $50. Overall, everything went well. I'm happy with this job. This is the first time that I have replaced an ABS floor flange doing the method that I have shown you here. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I hope something here is going to help you on your project when you need to go ahead and do that. Guys, till next time, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next project.